Are you confused? Bothered? A little lost in the sauce? Well, we're here to help because if there are so many things about Drag Race Philippines that you just didn't get because you're not from here or you're not familiar with Filipino culture, well, we're gonna connect the dots for you because it's time for Dragsplaining Philippines! This episode was titled Dapat, Pakak, and it was so perfect because this time it is the girl group challenge. And of course, the girls need to show up, dance, perform like there's no tomorrow. That's why Dapat, Pakak.
Dapat Pakak.
Dapat Pakak is kind of our version of don't fuck it up. But the literal translation of that is it should be good. Something has to be done perfectly. Because pakak means to be like on point, to do things correctly, to do things fabulously. And most of the girls did do that, so congratulations. But some of them did not shine as much as the others, and we're gonna get to that. But first of all, let's go ahead and open with this tiny little shade that they threw Tita Baby's way. Was it Mix? I think it was Mix Chanel who was like, Tita Baby did well in the lip sync because that was her song. She was already alive when it was released. And I don't know if that's true, but Tita Baby I know is 46 years old. And the song that they did lip sync to, No Si Balasi. No Si! No Si Balasi! Was this big rock hit in the Philippines in like the late 80s. So at this point, the song is like 35 years old. And it's from a band called Sampaguita, one of the more iconic groups in Philippine music. So if you have the time, look them up. Now let's move on to this episode's mini challenge. And I'm gonna be honest, this challenge brought back a lot of memories for me, good and bad. Because the girlies were asked to do a sack race. Sack race is a very popular party game. You see it a lot in like children's parties. And I just learned that the whole world does not know about parlor games. So in the Philippines, parlor games are like party games. I know that in other countries, parlor games mean a different thing. But in the Philippines, it's basically these like fun games and activities that you do at parties, usually for kids. You know what? My favorite part was when Udipota called out Versex for like not wearing the jugs.
The challenge is bouncing blooms. Like, come on. Comprehension skills talaga ng mga bakla, no?
It was a requirement in the challenge, okay? And Versex was like, I'm a model. I don't need boobs. Girl, you do. For this challenge, you really did. Long story short, the bitch got disqualified, and I will say, deserve. Love her though. This week's special guest is none other than the vocal superstar that is Angeline Quinto. I think that she's a very special choice because like these drag queens, Angeline is very familiar with the reality show circuit. If I'm not mistaken, she has been on multiple singing competition reality shows. And I think the reason why she's this big star today is because she won the reality singing competition Star Power back in like 2011. She's also known as the Philippine primetime teleserye queen. She has this library of theme songs because her voice is so perfect for those really emotional ballads. Also, she's parlaying into comedy. She's appeared in a lot of comedy films because she's also known to be very witty, to be very naturally funny, which actually makes sense. Some of her closest friends in Philippine showbiz are queer icons and queer performers.
Diesel ba? Diesel ba?
So it was very evident in her interaction with the queens that this is a vibe that's very, very familiar to her. And that also reflected with the queens because all the queens were also really comfortable with her. Now, Angeline, I don't think has ever been part of a girl group, but as far as performance goes, I mean, she knows how to perform. And the closest thing I would say is because she is a regular on the variety show ASAP. And in there, although she is a solo artist, in ASAP, they perform in groups all the time. So I think she knows how to work with artists on a similar level. It's Maxi challenge time. So we have come to the girl group performances, and I will say that the whole world has their eyes on the Philippines when it comes to the girl group challenge, because the queens from season 1 really did set the bar. Pop Off Ate, especially Turing's group, they're a tough act to follow, but my very favorite performance for this one was John Fideliaga.
Across the sea, a femboy, it's me, John Fideliaga, your queen of orgy.
I'm gonna say it, their group was kind of a mess. Like, I didn't know what I was watching, and it felt like John was the saving grace of that group. John was the star and everyone was a backup dancer. And I guess that's just such a testament to how great of a performer she is. Also, a special mention to Kiana. She had so many moments, especially when they all merged, that my eyes were on her. Because she was not only committed to her bit, but she was also just playful. It was very clear that she was just having fun. And of course, another standout for this challenge is Maxie. That's why it's the Maxi challenge. Of course, we all know that Maxi is a great performer. Now, back when Maxi was a 13-year-old stunner,
13 years old stunner po.
she already made waves online and on TV here in the Philippines. So for just being such a firecracker of a kid, honestly, watching her original video on that game show gives me goosebumps, because she said there that she was gonna prove to the world how talented she is and how talented Filipinos are.
Itong baklang to ang magpapasikat ng buong Pilipinas, hindi lang po dito. Ang talento ko pong to, hindi lang pong pang Pilipinas, pang international pa po.
And she's already done that with Queen of the Universe, and she's doing it again. Category is PERYA. Yeah, daddy. So for the runway this week, the queens were tasked to showcase their interpretations of the Filipino PERYA. And what is the PERYA? So it's basically a fair. They translated it to be like a carnival, but it's not really a carnival. It's more like, you know, a traveling fair. So there are booths, there are kind of rides, but there's something very distinctly Filipino about PERYA. So usually PERYAs happen around like fiesta time. So if there's one place where there's a fiesta coming up, they're gonna set up the fair there. Or usually during holiday time. And in the Philippines, Christmas is gonna start in like a couple of days. But the queens did actually do a good job of exhibiting what PERYA is through their looks, because that's what PERYA is. A lot of variety, a lot of color. Like for example, Kiana's PERYA look that was like masks and like the carousel. Why I love this look is because it's just so well executed. I actually don't get the masks things. I don't know how PERYA that is, but I really love the look. And the carousel. In the Philippines, I think we call that chubibo. It's one of the more popular rides because kids love it, parents love it, because they're relatively one of the more safer rides. PERYAs are notorious for having not the best safety when it comes to their rides. Most of the rides are kind of, but they're still fun though. Bingo! This is Angel and her bingo look, and bingo is kind of a neighborhood game in the Philippines. You will find people just playing bingo randomly in the streets. But in the PERYAs, it's a lot bigger. And I do think Angel's interpretation was really cute. I love the gold, I love the energy, and I love the coins, because that's what you use to bet. And one thing is clear, Angel knows her way around balls. The thing with Versex is I always appreciate like the fashion route when it comes to looks on Drag Race. But as much as I love this Vivienne Westwood inspired look from her, I just did not see PERYA at all. I think she was going for a clown look. I don't know, I've been to a lot of PERYAs growing up. I don't think clowns were very common, at least where I go.
Yeah, that's why kaya yung comments na kanina. Sana gets din.
I love fashion interpretations. I just wish I saw more PERYA, because it just looked like a really nice look from a really fashionable drag queen. Maxie's look was inspired by the color game. Now, I don't want to get into explaining the actual game, but basically, again, you use coins to bet on colors on a board, and whatever color comes up in when they roll the dice, that's who gets the money. And it's just this really fun way to gamble. Not that we encourage it, but that's what the color game is. So games like that, when you have to like shell out a little bit of money for the chance to win bigger money, we call that beto beto. Now that I think about it, as a child, it was my entry level to gambling. It's the gateway. Oh my god. Pogo who? This Maxi look's actually a great interpretation because the colors on the hat. I haven't been to a PERYA in a while, but like those are the colors. The colors are on the nose. But I do love that she also brought the colors down to like the coin. It's kind of wild how exact this is. Now let's move on to another game in the PERYA. This is the piso game as shown by Mix Chanel. Just like the color game, it's also beto-beto, which means it's kind of gambling. But for this one, you actually need to have really good aim. It's like this like huge checkerboard with really tiny squares. And each square corresponds to like a prize. So you either win an actual prize, you either could double your money, you could win nothing, and you have to aim for the square you want using your 1 peso coin. The 1 peso coin is like this big, and the squares are also like, I like this interpretation. I wish it could have been executed a little bit better. The coins as like 1/2 of a bra is kind of smart. The rest of the look, I'm not sure. Questionable. Having said that, I will say this all the time, Mix Chanel has the most gorgeous face. Like, I don't want to be in the same room with her. I need to be the pretty one. Now, if there's one queen who bought all of the PERYA to the runway, it is John Fedeliaga. This bitch said, PERYA, here is PERYA. Well, she called it PERYA-yaga, which is really funny. The games, the ride, the activities. Like, she had popcorn for earrings, she had bingo cards. She was PERYA. She had the arc, because to enter the PERYAs, there's this big arch. She was PERYA, and it was beautiful, gorgeous, fabulous, and magnanimous. Magnanimous! Also, John shared a very important story, and I think that took a lot of strength, and that took a lot of courage. Just as a viewer, I'm in support of John Fedeliaga, and I really thank her for that vulnerability, because I know that as tough as it was to talk about, I think that people who can relate to it will connect to it and feel like they're supported as well, and that they can speak up and find people to reach out to so that they can get the help that they really need. She also mentioned Die Beautiful. Now, if you guys have the time, look up the movie Die Beautiful, starring the one and only Mama Pao herself. It's a comedy drama about the trials and tribulations of a performer and also a trans person. In the Philippines, it's required queer watching. But I think if you haven't seen it, you should go see it because it's a really good film. In the episode, they also mentioned Sex Bomb Girl. If you guys want to have a good time, look up Sex Bomb Girls during like the 2000s. Because they were the tea, honey. If you look back to season 1 with Pop Off Ate, a lot of the dance steps were referencing iconic dance steps from the Sex Bomb Girls. I'm gonna cut that out. So after deliberations, unfortunately, Versex and Mix Chanel ended up in the bottom 2. They lip synced though to the song Miss Manila, which I thought was a really smart choice because Angeline is known for her ballads and her big vocals, and this is one of the rare gems where Angeline is doing dance music. Oh, Miss Manila! Honestly, by the middle of it, I kind of felt like Versex was just going home. I just didn't feel like they were gonna send home someone with a win. So as sad as I am to see the iconic Miss Versex go home, I thought that it was very clear. I feel like she's perfect for a Filipino All-Stars. I do think she's perfect for like a more global thing. I'm sure she's gonna stir the pot. Now I'm gonna introduce you to our new segment, Vakla Vocabulary. Bruh. So every episode, aside from explaining the Filipino references and all that jazz, we're also gonna teach you one term or one word or one phrase that's commonly used by the Vaklas or the gays in the Philippines. And let's start with a really basic one today. Char. Char. So char is like an expression or an interjection you say after you say something that's kind of a joke or kind of a lie. I'm a much better drag queen than Mama Pao. Char.
Ito na nga po eh. Char.
It's kind of hard to explain to like English speakers because English speakers just don't speak in that kind of way. But when you hear the Drag Race queens saying char, or its many variations like charot,
Pangit. Charot.
chares,
What happened?
Nabago pa po me, chares.
charing,
You may kiss the bride. Charing, you may go to the back of this.
and many more. That's what it is. I do think that its closest version in like the English language is like Haha, JK. Now, if we're gonna get into detail, it's part of the word family tree, coming from like chuva, which popularized by Julina Magdangal. Which we will get into in a later episode of Vakla Vocabulary. And that is it for this edition of Dragsplaining Philippines. Episode 3 was wild. I love it. There were high highs and low lows emotionally. But I thought that this is a great episode that really showed us that these queens are incredible performers and incredible storytellers. As always, if you want us to continue explaining to you everything that you may have trouble understanding on Drag Race Philippines, we are just here. So subscribe to our channel, SISNE POP, and we'll bring you a lot more, not just drag content, but content that will connect Filipino pop culture to the world. But now I gotta go, because I gotta wash my punani. Charat! Goodbye!